So this thing with the Giza pyramids, it's not over. On my previous video, I talk about how the pyramids in Giza, the ones that we've been looking for all this time, may actually not be just pyramids. Apparently, what we see as the pyramids of Giza are actually just the top of huge structures that are massively hidden within the sand. Filippo Biondi and a team of researchers on March 15th published a paper with these images and descriptions of what's supposed to be this massive structure underneath the Giza pyramid. 8 columns, square-shaped structures, and what appears to be an entire city down there. Now, if this is real, it would reshape history as we know it. Not only history, actually it would change everything. And as you can imagine, this is blowing up out of proportions all over the internet. And now we got Jimmy Corsetti, we got Billy Carson, Jay Anderson, and a bunch of other people talking about it, and there are different opinions. Some think this is real, others think this is fake to push some sort of narrative. The question is, if it is real, what is this massive structure? Is it some sort of free energy battery like some think, or is it a lost city that was covered by sand because of some sort of cataclysm that occurred in the past?
Maybe layer 2 or 3 or something like that, then the chamber could be much older.
Yes.
So perhaps pre-8000 BC, according to...
So we're going to be covering all of this and trying to find out what's really going on right now. And we're going to start with the updates on this bizarre situation. So this is the official press release of the first document, actually, of these finds, with images of the scans, of the SAR scans of what's underground the pyramids. And then, just recently, Billy Carson uploaded an update. This actually is 20 hours ago. More SAR scans under the Giza Plateau reveal hidden vast underground complex. This is the image. This is a little bit better, I guess, so that we understand what we're looking at. And someone made a 3D rendering of this find. So on March 25th, Jay Anderson posted this to Twitter. Do you have any idea how many locked underground entrances are there on the Giza Plateau? They are everywhere. And he shows this video from Trevor Grassi and actually found the original part that showcases this. There are secret tunnels under the Sphinx and around the pyramids which all prove to carry many secrets of the building of the pyramids. And this was said by Dr. Sahi Hawaz, archaeologist, Egyptologist, and former Minister of Tourism. Let's take a look at this.
If these tunnels lead to nothing significant, then we could easily have proof of that by seeing video footage going into the extent of the cave, filming all the walls, showing that there are no additional passages or excavatable materials like dirt or sand that could be removed to show more passages. We've never seen any video footage like this. Over the last 2 decades, I've collected a massive body of evidence that suggests the Hall of Records underneath the Giza Plateau is a historically documented fact, and not a myth or a legend. On this stele, we see a depiction of what appears to be a chamber or archive underneath the Sphinx itself. And we also find the name of the Sphinx, which is Horam Akhet, which means Horus of the Horizon.
In my previous video, I showed you guys a leaked video of one of these underground entrances that has been blocked underneath the Sphinx, and this would actually suggest that there are underground levels that go way further than we would ever imagine. This, for instance, is the video that I'm talking about.
Here we are going to the Sphinx enclosure, guys. So cool. Oh, we're not going in there today, right? Oh, okay, maybe we are going in there today. This thing is so big. Like, look at how big this is.
And we can touch it.
So they went inside.
What do you see, Adrian?
I see that. I need to go over there.
No. Okay, so that's a dead end.
So there's about 5 to 6 shafts in the Sphinx, and you can actually find this through this website over here. The shaft that we were looking at right now was shaft D, and as you can see, it wasn't a dead end. It was blocked. Maybe because it's dangerous, or maybe because there's something else down there. So the Hall of Records is a legendary concept linked to ancient Egyptian lore. It is believed to be a hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid or the Sphinx, containing vast amounts of lost wisdom and knowledge about the ancient civilization. Actually, story goes that the Atlanteans actually built this Hall of Records.
So we already know there's something under the Sphinx and we're just gonna keep ignoring it? First-hand accounts, radar scans, and countless historic records have confirmed this time and time again, with many of these suggesting it may be the legendary Hall of Records, and there's a good reason they'd be hiding what's inside.
Wait a minute, so this kind of reminds me of this image from 1882, and this is the Sphinx. It was completely covered in sand. What if the Sphinx, the pyramids, what if there's much more beneath it? What if they dug it, but they didn't dig enough?
Around which time people started to notice the Sphinx was much more than it seemed. Archaeologist and journalist Hamilton M. Wright, who was closely involved with the dig, writes an article about something amazing they found beneath it. Something that he called a subway used by the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago between the second pyramid and the Sphinx. And that from this subway they dug up many more shafts going down more than 125 feet beneath the sand with, quote, roomy courts and side chambers, all underground. Many more articles in academic journals and international mainstream news about this find came out over the next several years, talking about massive hallways, stone support columns, buildings, and even paintings and carvings on the walls inside these subterranean chambers. Essentially, kind of describing what some consider to be a secret underground city beneath the Sphinx back in the 1930s. Allegedly, even photos were taken of this underground complex when all of a sudden the story fades away and focus instead shifted on all the other tombs. Was it suppressed?
Now this kind of reminds me of the same story about the Grand Canyon and the Egyptian artifacts that were supposedly found inside a cave in the Grand Canyon in 1909. The story was actually published in the Arizona Gazette, and then later on it was dismissed as a joke. Not even 10 years later, the Grand Canyon was considered a national park, and that area where G. Kincaid supposedly found these Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon was completely forbidden. Its access was blocked. Very similar to what we see here happening in the Giza pyramids and the Sphinx.
It wasn't the first time in history that a city under the Sphinx was mentioned. No, people have been talking about this for at least 1500 years. In the 5th century BC, Greek historian Herodotus wrote the Histories, in which he talked about going to Egypt, where he was shown the legendary labyrinth of Egypt. Herodotus explained this underground complex in incredible detail, claiming that it even connected many of the pyramids together. In fact, his explanation was so detailed that 17th century scholar Athanasius Kircher was even able to recreate the entire map of the labyrinth from his writing.
By now you're probably asking yourself, why the heck are we talking about the Sphinx if this massive structure that was found, supposedly found, is under the Giza pyramids? Well, this is why.
4th century Syrian philosopher Iamblichus recorded info about a subterranean tunnel system under the Giza plateau that was accessed through the body of the Sphinx. Al-Masudi in the 10th century writes of these same underground tunnels and galleries, guarded by what he claims to be mechanical statues that almost sound like robots.
So Al-Masudi says that these things were guarded by mechanical statues, huh? Would you look at that? Posted on March 26th. What a coincidence, isn't it? A declassified document claims that the Ark of the Covenant, the legendary gold-covered chest said to house the 10 Commandments, was discovered in 1988 through secret tests. And this is the original document that you can actually go to and find in the original website. Training target 209, the Ark of the Covenant. Now, this was first disclosed in this podcast over here, Sunday Cool, 4 months ago.
I thought it was fake until I went on the C.gov and found it.
Here we go.
And I was like, what am I looking at? Okay, so we've talked about before Project Stargate.
Yes.
Remember? In 1985, they started a new project called Project Sunstreak, which sounds pretty similar to Stargate, except they did more like obscure things. They had remote viewers within Project Sunstreak that would do drug busts all over the world. And there was one guy who was 50% effective. So he would just sit in a room and they would give him a map and he's like, they're going to be here, here, here. 50% of the time he was always right. But there was one that I said, this has to be a joke, not a joke. This was a real mission This was training target 0209 is the Ark of the Covenant.
So the Ark of the Covenant, what the heck does this have to do with the Sphinx and with these massive structures under the Giza pyramids? Well, take a look.
On December 5th, 1988, this one man, for his training exercise, was to find the Ark of the Covenant. This is what he said about the Ark of the Covenant. Target is in a container. This container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to AOL, which I don't know what that means, a coffin, and is decorated with seraphim. See sketch, page 16.
So they're describing it.
Yeah.
Got it.
He's viewing it, and they're writing down.
So he goes on and he describes what he's seeing in his remote viewing, which would be the psychic ability to see things with your mind, things that are very far away. Like in this case, something, I believe, under the pyramids. Now he starts describing this Ark of the Covenant, and in this specific moment, it actually sounds very similar to what Al-Masudi had described with these statues that looked like machines.
Lessons in historical knowledge far beyond what we know. The target, this is the part. The target, being the Ark of the Covenant, is protected by entities. See page 14. And can only be opened by those who are authorized to do so. This container will not / cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors. See page 17. Through the use of a power unknown to us. That is a document.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard, dude.
Now this could be a really good reason to why there's a lot of suppressed information when it comes to archaeological finds and ancient history. I mean, maybe there isn't a massive structure beneath the Giza pyramids. Maybe it's just fake information or fake narrative. But the idea that there's something down there is very old. Maybe this information is being suppressed at any cost. So the question is, if there is something down there, is there any proof of such a thing? And well, maybe there is.
So yeah, quite a few notable people throughout history agree there's something big under the sands of Egypt, notably the Sphinx. Bringing us right back to the 1930s when someone named Edgar Cayce reaffirmed these ancient records once again. Cayce was a famed American psychic who predicted many world events like the stock market crash, WW2, the fall of the Soviet Union, and accurately diagnosed patients telepathically.
Edgar Cayce and the Great Pyramids. So if I'm not mistaken, this guy said that the pyramids were actually 10,000 years old and that there were entrances, secret entrances on the right paw of the Sphinx that led to underground levels. And this was like a long time ago. I think it was in the 1930s or something like that. This guy was supposedly a respected psychic, but what happened after that?
In 1978, the Edgar Cayce Foundation launched an excavation project around the Sphinx, where they started to drill beneath it but were stopped by the Egyptian army. And then guess what happened in the 90s? Egyptologist John Anthony West and geologist Robert Schoch led studies into and around the Sphinx, and their conclusions almost lined up perfectly with Cayce's visions, taking seismic surveys revealing that unexplained tunnels and chambers were found under it, and the water erosion hypothesis suggesting it to be closer to 10,000 years old.
It kind of sounds crazy. 10,000 years ago, that's not the official story. But if you take a look at it, there are pyramids like Gunung Padang, for example, that are considered to be at least 8,000 years old. Some even say 27,000 years old.
There's some interesting features as we look on the geoelectric. There's some kind of chamber below that, like 5 meters down.
Right. Okay, that's really interesting. So obviously that's very old, because if this doesn't relate to layer 1, maybe layer 2 or 3 or something like that, then the chamber could be much older.
Yes.
So perhaps pre-8000 BC. We now know that there's a chamber possibly beneath this that could be pre-8000 BC. It could link in with the entrance into an underworld that exists somewhere beneath this step up from terrace 1 into terrace 2.
It is also said that secret chambers were found underneath Gunung Padang, and once they were found, excavations were halted and stopped by authorities. Even though I didn't find any official sources stating such a thing, I wouldn't be surprised. There's also a very strange video that was sent to me by Pasalo65, and in it he's flying on an airplane, and he captures what appears to be a massive pyramid in between the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. Now, what would a pyramid be doing inside the ocean in between the Gulf of Mexico and Florida? Unless, of course, that area wasn't covered in water thousands or maybe even millions of years ago. There's also this very strange aluminium wedge of Ayud, a most beautifully inconvenient little hunk of metal found 33 feet deep in the ground, cozying up with some good old mastodon bones near Ayud, Romania. Now, this thing was found to be 10,000 years old. Now, the weird part is this is 89% pure aluminium mixed with copper, zinc, lead, and cadmium. It's a deliberate blend, crafted with precision, not something you just drop from a construction site and forget about it. Doesn't make any sense. These and many other out-of-place artifacts suggest that something happened in the past, at least 10,000 years ago. So there's something really weird about our past. But it's not just the past. Something really weird happened in 1996 when Zahi Hawass decided to do a documentary about the underground levels and secret passageways underneath the Sphinx.
In 1996, Hawass greenlights a project to investigate under the Sphinx after receiving $10 million in funding to do so. It was so big, they even released a teaser trailer for it, showing Hawass going through tunnels under the Sphinx and hyping them up, where he's quoted on record as saying, "We are now inside the Sphinx in this tunnel. This tunnel has never been opened before. No one really knows what's inside this tunnel, but we are going to open it for the first time." Video ends, and over the next few months, Hawass and his team tell the world of a series of previously unknown tunnels that exist under the Sphinx. Reports coming out of drill samples going 100 feet straight down finding red granite, something that geologists confirm does not naturally occur that deep. Ancient Egypt commonly used red granite in their buildings and statues. Could that have been one? Then, out of nowhere, Hawass just scraps the whole project without explaining what they found down there and insists there is nothing under the Sphinx, even getting angry at anyone who questioned it, which really didn't help his case in insisting there's really nothing down there. But philosophers and historians throughout the centuries all wrote about it. Excavation projects in the 1930s confirmed it. Weston Schock's investigations in the 90s, followed by Hawass's excavations, reconfirmed it. As recently as 2008, the Mataha expedition launched in Egypt using ground-penetrating radar that indicated the presence of grid-like and ordered structures deep beneath the sand, only to be told there's nothing down there and everyone else have been lying and hallucinating for hundreds of years. Even official reports from the 1830s, which conducted earlier excavations in front of the Sphinx, describe passageways that go deep underground, when allegedly an ominous group kinda told them to stop their work. This pattern of discovery suppression is all too common with the Great Sphinx.
And apparently, it's happening again. This massive structure that supposedly exists under the Giza pyramids, well, the topic is being suppressed on Reddit, it's being suppressed on Twitter, and there's hundreds of people shouting out that this is all fake, that it's just a hallucination. And maybe it is, but we'll get to that in just a few minutes.
Legend claims that as Atlantis was flooding over, they realized the importance of preserving their records, all of their accumulated knowledge for future generations. And the even fringier theories claim that Egypt isn't the only place that has one, with mountains and rock formations closely resembling the Sphinx found all over the world. In the Grand Canyon, Colorado, Romania, Pakistan, Guatemala, said to be even older and hence clearly more eroded, but this one might be a stretch, it could just be pareidolia.
Now the main theory here is, if the pyramids and the Sphinx are just the top of a massive structure, what could be hiding beneath it? China did detect plasma bubbles on top of the Giza pyramids using specific radar technology, and this was in 2024. So it's not that long ago that they're finding out that there's something going on with the Giza pyramids, and it might just be some sort of free energy device. If you want to know more about that, you can watch my previous video. Now, why is it that there's a lot of people saying that this crazy find, these structures underneath the Giza pyramids, are fake? Now, Jimmy Corsetti makes a really good point. He says, a major red flag involving the alleged pyramid discovery is the omission of the water table beneath the Giza pyramids. Are we going to pretend a massive water table located right at the middle of the studied area wouldn't have a significant impact on the interpreted results of their scan? So apparently when they did this study, they did not mention this water table beneath the Giza pyramid. And it is a fact that Mr. Beast did indeed swim in this water table. There are actual videos of this water table. Follow me, let's take a look at this.
How deep is it? He's at waist height right now. Waist height. Yeah. Is it cold? Cold. No. Are you on the sarcophagus? Yeah. You see it? Wow, that's so cool, man. You're my hero.
The Sphinx is hollow, and there are many tunnels under the Giza Plateau, most of which are not accessible, especially to the general public.
There is underground water, of course, at Giza, but this water is crystal clear. So where exactly did it come from, and was it intended?
So in this case, Jimmy is questioning the SAR technology that was used to detect these massive structures not being able to detect the water table. At least this is what I understand. But then Matt Simpson replies, the technique is apparently done by picking up micro motions at the surface. They say the energy detected comes from resonating voids in the bedrock, but is projected on the surface above. So he's saying that yes, it's possible that this technology, together with others, is capable of penetrating the ground and actually detecting these structures, not detecting the water. There's also this article that was published on March 25th, this was yesterday. Scientists who made Vast City discovery claim it was built by a long-lost civilization. They say, for instance, that it could be 40,000 years old. There are now new images that they captured using SAR technology, such as this one, and you can actually see the pillar here, and this one. Now, in Jared's post, he says, I'm not even claiming that the scientists are right, just that you're wrong for declaring that the work has been debunked. We definitely have a data verification problem. Let's also double check the original authors. Corrado Malunga is a guy who writes this kind of book. Trilogy of Consciousness, Alien or Demon, and that sort of stuff. So this is one of the reasons a lot of people think his ideas are cuckoo. Then you have Armando May, who is a self-trained Egyptologist, and along with Graham Hancock, Robert Scotch, and Andrew Collins, he was a speaker at the International Conference on Ancient Studies in Dubai 2010. And then you got Filippo Biondi. So I couldn't find much on Filippo Biondi besides his original article in 2022 with the SAR technology, and to me it sounds like we are 50-50 here. It could be far-fetched, it could be made up, and it could be somewhat real. For now, I guess we're gonna have to wait for it to be peer-reviewed and for a few months to pass so that it can actually be proven that these structures do exist. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that there's possibly a massive structure beneath the Giza pyramids? And what do you think about this crazy theory of the Hall of Records, the Sphinx, and the Giza pyramids? Could it somehow be connected to this crazy find beneath the Giza pyramids? Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel with notifications, and I'll see you guys after tomorrow. And I'm also going to be uploading a new video on my other channel, so stay tuned.